Sound check.
Back in 2001, when we first began working with Gary
Yeah, it's a
Gygax,
Wednesday.
he pitched this
so
wonderful series of books.
4-stream week.
Yeah, he called them the Gygaxian Fantasy Worlds.
With
And
the
what he
prelude to
envisioned
Gary,
was this encyclopedic
Virtual Groundcon at
set
the end.
of books
Yeah.
for role players, writers, game designers, the whole lot of us that we could use in making our games, creating our adventures, writing stuff for publishable content, whatever it may be. And there was really no end to what he envisioned this series to be. We eventually published The Canting Crew, The World Builder, Living Fantasy, 7 volumes in total. We had another 3 that were ready to go to print, another 3 or 4 after that we were working on. So the series was really open-ended. We are bringing these back. That's what this Kickstarter is. We've got 7 books online ready to be printed. We've got another 3 right after that we want to get it minimally out as we were working on them at the time. Those will be out definitely in PDF, depending on how well the Kickstarter does, and maybe even more than that once we kind of push beyond the necessary stretch goals and all that mess. But welcome to the what we're calling the Gary Gygax World Building Archives, and please give us your support. Share it around if you can. Pledge if you can. Whatever you need to do, whatever you can do for us in the memory of Gary Gygax, we very much appreciate it.
That's all right. Sorry about that. I know those streaks are
Troll
awesome.
Lord Games.
I don't know how it keeps
Join
track
the
of it,
fray.
but it does. It keeps track of it, and yeah. But it's all right. Sometimes you get on a roll, and sometimes
Hi, welcome to Gamescape 3D.
Oh, thanks, Chad.
Today we're going to be going
months.
over
Wow,
a release of our gigantic cliffs. We have a lot to go over, so let's get to it.
Guess I got a minute
All right,
or two to
before we
shout out
jump
some.
in
I'm
and
not
see
gonna
how
get
this
to
thing
every
is
one,
standing
but
up, let's look at some of our smaller
do some of
features.
We have plenty of time today, so
these. Is that because of what we're doing?
Or,
yeah, so I'll just.
Yeah.
All right, you're going to have
it's only you and me
a
too, so
folder in
less
there,
other shout outs too.
called
We're good.
Magnet Face Cliffs. Those refer to a few specialty items that we have here. You can see this tree right here. Actually just pops right off. And after you pop it off, you can go ahead. I have a door
You all set for?
piece you can swap in there.
You all set
I also
for?
just have a plain cliff
what you
face you
doing
can
in
swap
Groundhog?
right. You can.
It's
whoops,
starting to get there. Yep.
You can
Good.
pop in there.
It looks good that I will be
Hey,
set,
Blue
so to
Joy.
speak. So yep.
Good.
So
And I'll
let's say
and I'll
you're
talk more about that in
on
the
an
shout outs
adventure
or
and,
beginning or wherever. So today, so I've sent out a
someone says
message
magic
to
word,
my
maybe that
players
makes
and
a door appear in the side
that's
of a
good.
cliff for you to
so
enter
it looks
inside or
reasonably on
whatever.
track.
So
I'm not panicky
this
yet,
one
so
right
to
next
speak.
to it is
No
another
panic yet.
swappable
I was
one.
more
We have a
panic a few
cave
weeks ago,
entrance.
but now I'm feeling like I'm
These
catching
things
up, so
blend
it's
in
good.
real well
I got like one slot to
on
fill
the tabletop,
right
as you
now
can
for,
see.
for the joust,
So
so
there
I'm
we
in good
go.
shape. So,
Yep.
Cave.
Yeah.
Any good? Yeah, you will have
Cave. Just that simple.
one of my players will be in the joust,
then,
so I'm
our
going
last
to
one
call
is
in the
down
2
here.
extras and fill it up. What the heck?
Who,
I'll
Shells
run
right
with
here.
7.
This
You
whole thing
got
comes
Brian
off.
Danger Jagasack, or is it Sparky
Okay, and there's your
68?
magnet faces on the back.
Hang on a second.
You're
It's
also gonna
Dennis.
have open locks
That's
everywhere you
calendar.
have
That's
magnets.
Yeah.
Sparky
Most of the
68,
time, you're
yeah.
going to want
Yep.
to use magnets. We're using
So I had 2 on the waiting list, so I
3
invited them to the game
by
too.
8
So that
millimeter
way I will.
magnets on
Yep.
this.
So no one has to be left
I
out.
needed
So,
Oh,
yeah.
something
that's
with a
nice.
little more punch
Yep.
than the 2x6s
So that means that I can take a couple of more on the
So you can
waiting
see the
list.
open
So
locks
yeah.
being useful
So
in
if
some
you hear
cases.
this, then you
Mostly,
can
I
sign.
think
My
Yeah.
Thursday
you'll want to
night
use
game
them on side-to-side connections
uh,
potentially,
with
because
Ed,
you will get into
I have 8 on the
situations
wait list.
where the
There's
magnet
not
Okay.
much I can do
Wow.
polarity
about
isn't
it. You know
set
what I
up
mean?
No, that's
correctly
yeah.
for what you want
You
to
know.
do.
But I
And those
thought if
open
I had,
locks
it will be
will
1.5 extra, so
override
that's okay,
uh,
so to speak.
Yeah, that's
the
So
good.
magnets
yep.
pushing away from each other.
So,
In terms of this base here, you
yeah,
can use
so,
any quarter-inch
and that's
material. I'm
that's
using
3 open
hardboard here.
signups, and
You could
we're,
use
we're good.
quarter-inch
We're good.
cardboard, quarter-inch foam core, some
Yep.
kind of
Yeah, we
plastic,
got it. We got it covered.
plexiglass, anything you got available. You could even use 1/8-inch material and shim it up a little bit, or double
Thanks,
it
Doc.
up.
Oh, we got a hype
whatever.
train. I didn't even
So
see that. I'm
there's
sorry.
the
I'm on
hardboard
another
I'm using.
page trying to get all these shout outs
Okay,
out
and
because
these
I
set
know I
right
didn't
on
get them all
top.
out, but I'm not going to be able to.
I'll go ahead and
So it's all
move
good.
these out of the way so you can sort of see the front mechanism.
It's cool.
Okay, so we got magnets all along here. And these are just the tops of the cliffs. Your board sets right in here, and you do not need to cut precisely.
That's a good point, Dragger, here, because there might be a way you might be right.
There.
We'll see.
You can see,
depending on how you look at it.
Most spots you're looking at
always
up to an inch of coverage. So, you know, if you're within half an inch, that's gonna take care of it. And then we have magnets, and these things just pop right in there and hold things into place. These this one here is an earlier one. You can see I went a little deeper. I decided to change that for the one I'm releasing you, so you don't have so much 3D print coverage going back. It doesn't really interfere if you're just doing a cliff face, but if you form these things into an entire butte, that extra rock really ended up taking up a lot of surface space.
Going. Nice.
So
thank you all.
I'll trim that back a little bit. So there you go. That's how those top plates hold in.
Hey TK, good to see you. My son, I gotta get back playing some BattleTech. Next couple weekends are rough. I got a game, special game Saturday night with my con next weekend. I'm playing.
I guess it's about all about what you in the definition, so to speak.
Sure.
Uh-oh. That doesn't sound good, Dale. Or hi from Hurricane Land. Yeah.
What? Ohio's hurricane land?
No, hi. I guess it's hello from Hurricane Land.
Yeah. Well, Ohio's not in a hurricane now, so.
Exactly. Asher is in Florida.
For now, you're in Florida.
Okay.
Oh, yep. Oh, bad timing, man.
Yep.
Tyranny and GREYHAWK. I will be throwing out after, at some point when I'm able to, with all the other stuff I got going on, throwing out invites for people for Sunday night. So. Let's come live here. What time is it? Look at that. We're 4 minutes early. All right. Ooh, a typhoon in Taiwan. Yeah. Well,
yep.
That would suck. Good to see everyone on a Wednesday. I'm Jay, the aka Gazumba with Anna Meyer. Just Hello. The two of us tonight. Cool.
Yep.
We can handle this. And then we're going to talk some Tyranny and GREYHAWK. We were going to do, like, the topic more from villains, which was a suggestion.
Yeah, and then we started making half jokes and stuff in Discord or Discord. And then I said, this is growing on me, the tyrant. Let's call it tyrants in GREYHAWK or tyranny in GREYHAWK. And so it's my fault that we got this. So,
how's that? Is my mic volume better? How about that? Is it better now?
For me, it's good, but we'll see. Yeah.
Better or worse?
Hopefully.
Not better.
Uh-oh. Okay. See if now you turn it off. So yeah.
Okay. All right, hold on.
Yeah, we'll see.
So
normally I'm the one that is not
the mic
loud.
gain's
So.
on max in Twitch.
Yep.
Let me figure this out.
Yep, we'll see what.
Audio settings. All right. How about now? Better?
Oh, that's much better.
All
at
right.
least
So
from
somehow the mic, there was an update. There was an update on today on
Oh, gotcha.
Zoom, and it lowered my mic.
There you go.
It was like way down in Zoom. Okay. Well, there you go. That solved the problem. Well, I appreciate you telling me that. Thank you,
Great.
audience. Very, very cool. Hey, Caesar. So I got one of your two, and we'll figure out the other one for your winnings on Sunday. All right. So let's go here first.
Yeah, you have some other announcement. What's going on?
Well,
and stuff.
Yeah. Let's see where we are. We're doing my damnedest to get some of these events filled, and
Yep.
It's been rough. It's been rough to. Let me go here and let me go to 100. So we go down. I don't think there's really. So Deep Dormant Delve still got 3 openings. Stolen Boat. It looks like it's got more now. Oh boy. And now there's only 1 sign up, and that's Sparky for that one. Ravages of Mine, no extras. Deep Dwarven Delve again, 3. Thanks for the hype train, everyone. This one, that Deep Dwarven Delve is 1. So we have not had any changes on any of the stuff I've tried to push. Not a single. Great. So I'll keep it at it. We got a week and a half. So, but none of the events that I've tried to get signups for has happened. With everything else still all sold out. So, yep. Well, all right. We'll keep at it. And just note, Sunday night is the Prelude show. Hey, Fuzz. Sunday night's the Prelude show for virtual GREYHAWK Con, like we have annually. We'll have a bunch of guests on, so we'll have some fun with that discussion. Yeah, looking forward to that. So I got to stream on Saturday at 10. So it's a busy 4-stream week here. So it'll go Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. So, yeah. All right. All right. So, what are your thoughts on this topic, Anna? Tyranny,
well, it's one of these that sounds terrible to begin with. Like when we had economy and politics and stuff in GREYHAWK, and everybody was like, "Oh, this is not going to be good." But remember, those shows were actually not that bad. We got a lot of good feedback from them, and I think hopefully this show can be in that vein of a little bit of GREYHAWK academics, so to speak. Plus, of course we need to go hands-on and gritty and what product do you find it. But I also think that this topic deserves a little bit of more kind of thought behind, so to speak, deeper thoughts behind, so to speak. As a DM, especially if you want to make your own version of GREYHAWK and you want to build it, that requires some deeper thoughts, because this could be cornerstones of your campaign, so to speak, and your world and your interpretation of GREYHAWK. And like we've done, at least I've tried to do on all of these kind of GREYHAWK academics lectures or episodes we've had, is to first start with the definition of things. So we both from the real world and then the fantasy version of it, so to speak. And the definition of meaning what is tyranny, and that is not that easy to answer. But I have a couple of degrees in political science, so I have at least have a little bit of academic feet to stand on when I'm saying that it's a little bit, it doesn't ought to be, but there are a little bit. If you ask around the world what tyranny is, you get a lot of different definitions. But in political science, in democracies, we usually say that a tyranny is a political realm or political country or political entity, I guess is the word you use in political science, that is ruled by someone who's unconstrained by law, meaning he's above the law and he can basically, like old kings and in dictatorship, there's a gliding scale from democracy to the tyrant is the other end of, you can have a country that is run by a government of some form that is constrained by law, constitution, and institutions, etc. So they are kind of part of the law, elected or somehow selected properly, and so on. And then you have the other end is a tyrant whose word is whatever. It can be completely unconstrained or for the most part unconstrained by law and regulations, institutions and stuff. That is the thing. But there are also a couple of edge cases in this. That could be, you can have the tyranny or the tyranny of minority, but you can also have the tyranny of the majority. And that is, so even if you have a democracy, doesn't mean that you can be completely free of being, you can be ruled by the majority and who oppress the minority and stuff. These are real world constraints and things that you keep in mind in the back of our heads when we start looking at this from a fantasy perspective, because it is interesting, because in a fantasy world we need to redefine this a little bit.
Or there are no democracies.
Exactly. Exactly. That's good to say. We have very few democracies. So we need to start thinking, what could a tyranny be in a fantasy perspective?
Oh, I think I think evil empires and evil organizations and
because we and that's what I'm going to say. The first one, we have alignment in GREYHAWK in the and you can interpret the alignment differently, and how you do it in practice, that's up to you at your game table. And that's the good definition, or the good thing with a fantasy game, meaning it's a materia that you and your players get to define things, so to speak. So you can kind of say, well, a tyrant is someone who's unconstrained but also evil. If you have a good king, then you could decide, no, he's not labeled, or she or it, because we're talking in fantasy worlds. You can have various other forms of people or creatures of forces running something. So
there aren't many good King Wenceslases out there.
Yeah. So a fantasy world is more, and the same thing, meaning go back in the medieval Europe and medieval world, everybody was a tyrant by today's definition and standards, because almost all of them were unconstrained in today's standards, so to speak. At least almost all European countries. The very few of them were constrained.
So, there's a lot of good examples. And one thing about the second edition era was they were good at bringing out resource books for these organizations, which is really good. So, I have a lot of data myself. And then, we can definitely get into the weeds on this. And let me throw out this. So I got our map in case we need to go anywhere all up already, and I got all my publications here. And then there could be some that you could say, there could be conjecture and argument on it. So,
well, and the thing is that we don't have, and that's the cool thing with this, or the good thing in this, is that we don't have to have a definition that is universal or academically approved or something like that. It's, you need to have a definition that works for you and your game. That's the point, so to speak. So this is more like an inspiration, but it can be, I think, a good thing to start your world building or your tweaking the GREYHAWK campaign and have an idea of what tyranny means in the real world, so to speak. What people that start to do research and try to use these words in a more responsible sense, so to speak, what their definition is, and then try to come up, okay, how do I want to use this word and these mechanisms and ideas and stuff in my GREYHAWK game? Because we're talking about things that are despicable and terrible, and no one should live under a regime like that in the real world. But things that are despicable, horrible, that you don't want to see and have anything to do with in the real world are awesome ingredients in a fantasy role-playing game where you want drama, violence, and horrible things that you don't want in the real world. You want that in your game. So that's another thing that I think we need to say, that I'm a staunch advocate advocate against tyranny in the real world, but in my fantasy games, I want a lot of tyranny because that makes good drama, awesome world building, and fun stuff for adventuring. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what if it's all a rose garden and all utopia? Then what's the point?
Exactly.
In,
yeah.
So
and that's one of my kind of pet peeves with latest edition of D&D and stuff. That for me they are not gritty enough, and I want more kind of tangible stuff, drama and bad stuff in my games.
Am I even going to go there? I should keep my mouth shut because I kept my mouth shut. You see it. I mean, all right, I'll say this. You see it in the artwork.
Exactly. But I also understand exactly why Wizard of the Coast need, when they're selling it to everybody, they need to have their game sanitized, for using a word that might not be the appropriate one, but the one that I came up with. So I can totally understand why they've done it, and they probably need to do it. But for your home game, anything that all the players are in on goes. That's my rule, so to speak. So as long as everybody's having fun and agree to it, then it's a good game. Yeah.
So I'm taking a lot of razzing in chat about about Celine. Celine's not a tyranny. So I know you guys are busting stones.
That's an interesting part, and I would say, yeah, I would agree, because the even if Yolande might be having a lot of power, but she's also, I would say, a fair ruler in that sense. And one of the things that, at least in a fantasy world, that I would go with defining a tyranny is that leaders and rulers who have the best interest of their subjects, I would not consider them a tyrant, so to speak, even if they formally have all the power. And I think Yolande is ruling with the best interest of her populace, so to speak.
Yeah. I'm not buying the bait. I'm not taking the bait on that one, guys.
No, but so in that sense, yeah. So no, I don't hold her as a tyrant. No. She might be a firm ruler with a good grasp of power, and it's a chaotic realm too, and that's another issue we have to go into later. Are there differences between lawful tyrants and chaotic tyrants, or are they lawful tyrants and chaotic tyrants? That's another interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stuff. Yeah.
So here, Sam, just to placate you, I'll show this now. This is Saturday morning, and it's called "In Penalty of Death." So it is a Selenian. They're chasing a Selenian who murdered a bunch of elves at Southern Tree Guard, and they're on the chase of this person, and that's the adventure for Saturday morning with nuclear meat. So there you go. So I'm talking about tyrannies back and forth, but there are there's always baddies everywhere. So
oh yeah, and we need, every campaign you need some baddies, and tyrants are poster baddies, so to speak. Meaning you can have villains and so on, but tyrants are the poster villains in that sense.
And tyrants aren't individuals either. So let me get this one out of the way, because it pains me every time that I talk about them. Every time I talk about them, my IQ goes down, and that's just because I hate them so much. So I'm going to get them out of the way.
I think you're talking about
the Scarlet Brotherhood, right?
The
so there you go. I'm going to get them done first.
The SBs, yeah.
So all right, this is a great reference book. An organization that is racist, that breeds creatures, crossbreeds creatures, has slavery. That's about as tyrannical as it gets, right?
Yep.
Has a caste system based on your race and your background.
But I will also put them firmly in the lawful tyranny square.
Because that's the way they keep the organization together.
Well, because they rely on institutions, rules, and rulings, and it, meaning this is policy, this is destiny, it's policy, it's the rule, it's the law, this is the way we're organized, it has to be this way, etc., etc. But you can also see IUs as being the opposite. It's chaotic tyrant. In that sense, it's my will, what I think and if I feel bad after breakfast, someone has to suffer for it, so to speak. Meaning, there's no tradition, no institutions. It's my will, and it's Ayu's will. If he hates someone, then it's the law that wherever.
Well, there is no law.
Exactly. Meaning that whatever Ayu's will, it becomes
absolutely.
law. So yeah, and that to me is the difference between a lawful and a chaotic, so to speak. In that sense, that the the chaotic, it's the will of the ruler that can change. If you have a chaotic neutral or chaotic evil, most likely, then that can change constantly. It can be conflicting in itself, etc. But you can also have institutionalized tyranny in that sense, like the Scarlet Brotherhood. I think is a good
and
example of that. Yeah,
they got an organization that is probably beats out anything as far as
yeah, and they probably will defend themselves saying, "Oh, it's the Sul way, always been this way. It's the right way. It's the traditional way. It's the way it has to be, etc." I wouldn't care any bit about how it used to be or whatever. This is the way I want it, period, so to speak. And he will use those arguments. And that is something you can play with in your world building, and you can kind of have rulers that can. Some could go back and forth. They can, one moment they can say this is the law, needs to be this way, and fall back on whatever tradition, and then all of a sudden they can uproot it. And some of them will simply go by the book in every case possible, and others will just be whimsical, whatever comes up, so to speak. And so that means that not all of them are the same. They're very different in that sense.
So a couple things. I don't think the Scarlet Brotherhood and I use cross paths at all. And secondly, I don't know of any noted. Are the Scarlet Brotherhood?
Saltmarsh, the new Saltmarsh book. Oh, that's where they kind of but I know it was a bad example, but it's bad. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And secondly, I don't think that the Scarlet Brotherhood touches the Great Kingdom at all, unless there's something in the Eyes of the Evil reference I'm not aware of. Right? I mean,
well, if you go into or even the Undying, they are touching they're touching the remnants of the Great Kingdom, especially the United Kingdom of Alyssa.
Sorry. You gotta understand, my brain's off. Alyssa, I'm talking about the Great Kingdom. I'm not talking about Alyssa. I'm talking about the Great Kingdom itself.
But that was before they had come out in the open. So to speak. They were, all right. Yeah. They were still building strength and stuff back then. But
that's good.
But who knows if it could be an interesting plot point that if you want to give Scarlet Brotherhood a bigger stage or place on the stage, their villains could be part of bringing the Great Kingdom to its knees, so to speak. So they might be one of the forces behind it.
I apologize. I know Avon's one of the three Brits. Which one are you, Avon? I always get them all confused. Are you Stewart? Or you? Which one? I always get them all confused. My disdain for the right side of the map. So that is, I don't have. That's so wrong. I don't have a lot of knowledge on the right side of the map, so I cannot. From what I've read, I didn't know about that plot. Okay.
No, it's okay, and I'm just saying that we don't know all the meaning. There is room enough for another villain in the fall of the Great Kingdom. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're not the Great Kingdom on Wall, ID, and Lordship of the Isles. They're their own countries, man. They're not Great Kingdom.
But they were part of the Great Kingdom.
Well, Keelan was, so was Ulick was part of, the Ulick states were part of Keelan's, so.
Yep.
I'm not a Never Niron guy. I mean, I'm just a never right side of the map guy. I'm not taking it, it's just where my campaign grew up, so that side of the map is left to others. It's left to Dale and all and Von Moku and all of the Living Greyhawk people. Have at it. Sorry. Just the way the game came.
It's funny.
Yeah, it is. It's
awesome.
It is.
Yep.
So, did the Scarlet Brotherhood intervene in the turmoil between crowns? I have no idea if they even existed back then.
I don't think at least they were not a force that was out in the open. Even when they came out in after 576. That's when they came out, so to speak.
Yeah, and if I hear if I all right, I'm going to hear because I'm going to start it. If I hear anyone say that like the Merchant Coalition or the Scarlet Brotherhood kidnapped the Prince Thrommel, my head's gonna go right. I don't need it. I don't need it tonight. And just
Yep.
note, Hold the Sea Princess is clear of Scarlet Brotherhood members, and my game and Mike's game. So there you go.
Mhm.
All right. So, yeah.
Yeah, even organized tyranny has its limits, so to
Exactly. It
speak,
has
which
its
we,
limits.
yeah, which we can dig into a little bit later when, yeah. So,
Yeah.
so that's, yeah, but this is Scarlet Brotherhood is a good example of what I would call a lawful tyranny with roots and traditions and been around for a long time, but hasn't been big on the political scene for more than a few decades.
No. He got kidnapped by whoever. He got rescued. That's the point of the adventure. That's the whole freaking point of that adventure.
Yeah,
right?
One and of them, even so. TSR didn't get it, or Wizard of the Coast didn't get it. So,
It's just it's lazy writing. I'm sorry, Monty Cook. It's lazy writing. So extremely, or someone wanted to do a sick joke. So yeah. All right, let's do this one. Yes, I want to come out. Sorry, I'm a spy. And it wasn't that. What was that? The Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. Yeah, sorry, hon, I'm a spy. And she punches him in the face. Oh my God, Jamie Lee Curtis. All right, so let's go to the throngs. Let's go to old times and go to the elemental evil faction in the early days, which is a good one because does it exist still? If you're playing in whatever time frame you're playing in, maybe there's remnants, but this was a tyranny that was taking over a large swath of area out here that was defeated. Right? Was thwarted and defeated. So. That was the movie Soul Lies. Yes, exactly. Exactly. You guys are a cult. Justinius, we don't. It doesn't have to be a government for a tyranny. If you're going to terrorize the lands around you, that's tyranny in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a great question because tyranny can come in many different levels. You can have a street gang that is the tyrants of a city neighborhood, so to speak, and it can go all the way up. But when it comes to the real world, the cult or the temple cult will be one of these kind of client groups that will be like many tyrannies in the real world. They put up these kind of little fronts here and there that are promoting their interests and trying to undermine other areas and realms and stuff. So I used and Zuchtmoy set up shop and started one of these kind of client groups to undermine, I guess, Celine and Furundi and the whole areas there.
This is a fun discussion tonight, though, so I can take the razzing. But like when I first started playing, when I was a kid, and I got enthralled by this, and we put our first characters in the Battle of Emerald Meadows itself, right? As first level characters or whatever, and then ran from there. This caught me as wow. I can't. Well, let me rephrase that. We did that, and then we had to wait 6 years for the adventure to come out, and then we're like, well, what do we do now? So, but once it came out, I was like, this is a cool incidence of you got to deal with what's left over from the badness and the tyranny that was in this area, because they were really, this whole area was being terrorized by this organization or this cult. So how did I step up TOE while being in prison under? IUS has nothing to do with TOE. IUS is a player because IUS is allied with Zugdemoy, who's entrapped in it, right? So
But the interesting thing is that is not really mentioned much in the adventure, if I remember correctly, but it was much more underlined in Gygax's Saga of the Old City and the Artifact of Evil, because that's when he dug much deeper into the connection between Zuchtmoy and IUS.
Right. LG can go too far. LG can go too far. You got to remember, the stories we got in the LG ones, and I'm sorry, LG's for the most part great. Living Girl Care was awesome. But when I have to hear that the vampire Thrommel took over all of Firendi, I got a problem with that. Okay.
But it's meaning LG went everywhere.
Yes.
They did everything from
Oh,
the
I
best
thought
to
you
the worst.
both can go too far,
Yeah.
or the air conveyor belt that existed over there, the Vermont and the Cron Hills. Okay, so yeah, I have some issues with some of it, but this is a good starting point if you want a touch of a tyrannical organization that's going to give you some trouble, because you can expand on it however you want, and you can even start back before they were destroyed if you want. If you really want to get
Yeah.
down and dirty and have adventuring before the battle takes place, that would be cool.
Yeah.
There's a lot you can do.
And one of the interesting aspects is that an organization that could be almost labeled a tyranny doesn't really need to have political power directly, because tyranny is very related to terror, meaning it can be, you can have like a cult of Nero, for instance, that makes everybody scared of being murdered. So they can rule by fear, not by enacting laws or having political or military power. They can simply do what we tell you to do, or you will find yourself dead or your family murdered at night, so to speak. So you can have a cult of terror, could be a tyranny too, that doesn't have any real political power. They're not appointed, elected, or anything. They're just the ones you need to be scared of every time you go to bed, because you never know if you're going to wake up again or your whole family might be murdered or something. So you can have the there could be, the tyranny can be a tyranny of terror, not of political power directly, so to speak. So, and in a fantasy world, that can take many more interesting possibilities, so to speak. You can use spells, compels, and all sorts of interesting stuff that you can play with in a fantasy world.
Yeah, see, we get the dirty laundry here. We do, and we got that with Bowman and all, and they're like, yeah, they're drinking at the bar, and they go, well, what can we do that's worse than anything else? And well, 10's already messed up. Let's just mess it up even more.
Yeah. So poor Ten and Almer were the one that was crushed in the upheaval, so to speak. I think Almer was the Carl Sargent's. He killed that off, and then afterwards they killed 10 a little bit later, if I remember correctly, from in the published history from publication point of view.
Marshanter's Years of Dark Terror and the Sea of Melkot. See, there you go, a little localized tyranny there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that was enough of Scarlet Brotherhood for me.
Yeah.
Unless someone else wants to bring it up for some reason other than to torture me, but yeah. And so I'd say, and it's always, the good thing is cults never completely ends. You can always go back. And what's up, Tim? Stronghold Tim is playing Saturday, and also his announcement coming on Sunday, but playing in the Joust for the first time. What could possibly happen there? Bad things. Well, not bad things, but shoot, hit that button there. What's up, Gary? Tyrants of the Trask, yeah. So you can always have cults show back up. Once, I'll always throw out some crazy elementalist or some priest of Zugdemoy or another deity is trying to flame the temple elemental evil. So yeah, you're like a red shirt, Tim. Just kidding. So, were they really tyrants, or was that just Arity propaganda? Yeah, well, that's up to. See, see, Gary. Yes, we're getting it good today. All right, so I'm going to give you. Here's one. I got to find it. Here's one that is a tyranny, but not evil.
Okay.
Better be under T and not P, because it's under P. Oh, you guys are gonna kill me. You guys are killing me. Theocracy in the Pale. Right? So and this is done. This was not done in the original glossography, but in second edition, Sargent goes a little crazy on it.
He turns them into a tyranny. I don't think they
Right.
were originally that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, but they also threw off IUs, right? They smashed them because they have all elite troops.
Well, tyrants have a tendency of not
Yeah.
liking other tyrants. So evil fight evil as much as they fight good, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, yeah, which I think is one of the interesting points to make, is that one evil ruler, even if it's the person or like in this case of Pale, an institution that runs the country, and so they probably don't want any competition. It does for them. I don't think they care much who it is, as long as they want their power. So to
Gary, if they do not worship Fultus, they kill you. I think that qualifies in a sense.
In the real world, it would, but in a fantasy world, yeah, it's up to you. But it's yeah.
All right, we can split hairs. A theocracy saying is cold weather is Fultus's way of telling you to throw another heretic on the fire.
Yeah. Well, in my campaign, they gone whole hog evil.
You've made them evil, right?
Oh yeah, I made them evil. They forced. They were one of the examples. They forced. Fultus to realize Fultus fell for they basically
probably is.
They hijacked their god to so the clergy and the worshippers turned evil so many that they kind of the god realized that, oh, I get more power from this. So yeah.
And there's more here too. If we go over to Fultus here, I guess he's greater gods, right? Oh, Fultus. So yeah, Fultus is priest. It should say, maybe it doesn't say it here. I know it says it somewhere. Worshippers of Fultus are often rigid, unbending folk. Many have taken refuge in the theocracy of the Pale. There's friction between that nation, its priesthood, and many image of Fultus as a champion of good. So, All right, well, tyranny may be going a little bit too far, but it's an intolerant state. How's that? That better? We can say that. But I want to give an example of something that's not a non-evil.
Well, I was going to say that Pale is one of these interesting places where you can play anything from, they can be super good, or you can play them all the way into evil. You can, meaning Carl Sargent, he hinted strongly at them going the more inflexible all the way down to evil route. But you can take them the other way if you want to. They might be one of the staunch defenders against IUs and stuff like that. So that's something you can really play with Pale and tweak it the way you want it. It's potential in many different directions.
So Gary, it says it's not true, but and hear it and from the ashes it does. Now, note I love the unknown, one of the three named great Brits writers, Avon Avengers, which I can't put two and two together because they have a different Discord name and a different Twitch name all the time. So but yes, lawful good Fultians strive to be an example to others. Lawful neutral Fultons strive to make an example of others. That is perfect in your description. That is one of the best lines I have heard about the difference between lawful good and lawful neutral Fultons. Yeah. You're being killed. Yeah. Now, we know something that I have argued forever, that there's other deities worshipped in the Pale, and one is noted in published source, but Gary and all says it's a side thing, so we won't go there. But one of Len Kafka's articles has a deity that's worshipped in the theocracy of the Pale. So, and it states it specifically, last line of the.
Well, I'm sure that the population have other interests sometimes. Yeah. So in secret, there's probably several. Old Flandom is probably alive here and there. There might still be some druids on the countryside hiding around somewhere where people will go in with their problems and get help and stuff from time to time. And others are probably making inroads to because it's a large populace and ripe for, as more oppressed the more oppressed they become, the more Tritherian converts there will probably be and stuff. So yep.
In fact, that's one of the things I really love about what Sargent did is that Tritharian and Foltis, lawful neutral aspect, despise each other. Tritharian people hate them as much as they
Oh
hate
yeah.
evil, which I love playing on in my game. I also love, putting. I have Foltis worshiping Theocracy of the Pale people now in the Shieldlands. Like they took East Fork or whatever and renamed it Radiant Fork because it was a ghost town. So they took it over because also there's Summon Holmer's Hold up here. Half this town is Foltis and half the town is native Shieldlanders. So, yep, you take the opportunity to throw in a third cog into your game, and then people can decide if they're tyrannical or not. How do you be worshiping nature gods of flame gods? Those are suppressed, especially amongst the. Okay. Yep. Yeah, that's true. There are many factions that pale in the politics and are more complicated. So, Gary, if you think it's a correction needs to be made over time, like we could just say that cooler heads have prevailed and have gotten back onto the right course of action.
We should have a special show and talk about the Pale and up there and all the stuff. That there's enough interesting things about the Pale, Dimri.
Someone should write an article. Someone should write an article for one of the two publications. So, yep. Did I miss something there, Michael, for you linking that? Yeah. Yeah. Sam's like, no. Oh, man. Progressive and tolerant are two different things. Yeah. Yes, I know you have. I know you have, Sam. Yeah. All right. So there is argument on there. We'll move on for another time. Yeah.
No, but this shows the potential in Pale, meaning there is a lot of world building campaign potential in Pale. It's an interesting state with a lot of potential. Whatever direction you're taking it in, there's plenty of cool stuff that you can use.
Yeah, absolutely. There's always something that can be utilized. There's always a learning experience, right? There's always something that can be found that is for the better for you. I love go ahead, Anna.
I was going to say if you're interested in playing up a conflict that might not really be based around alignment, you can have it between Dimri and Pale. That could be an interesting intra-religious conflict, so to speak. That could be like in the real world analog to some degree might be the wars between the Catholics and the Protestants in Europe and stuff. That might be a similar type of event in that sense, that they can both say that at least nominally we are actually having the same god and stuff. We're just fighting over how to worship him, and so you can have interesting stuff going on there. That's one way of taking it. Or you can take them good, or you can take them evil, or you can make the Dimri ones the evil ones, or stuff. So there's plenty of interesting food for campaign building in Pale and the Dimri. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Anna, you're up on selecting something or talking about something. What would you like to talk about?
Well, we have the let's see here. We have some of the oldest. What are the oldest tyrants that we can have around, so to speak, that are we can, in some ways we can say the Scarlet Brotherhood is both old and new, because they hark their tyranny back to old roots, meaning old traditional whatever roots in old Suldom. But then we have some of the other ones that been around for a really, really long time. And then we have some that called themselves the old, but they aren't that old if you look at it from what we know of the history.
Okay.
And I was thinking one of the oldest, I was thinking Thoriston is one of these that are a hidden tyrant, a would-be tyrant that is just looming using the threat of his comeback, so to speak.
Yes. So my last name is that too, Avon. So is Stuart Scottish? Or is Paul Scottish? I don't remember. I don't remember. Oh my gosh. So Thursden, yeah. I believe Stuart is. There you go, Stuart. Okay. Oh, yeah. Thanks. Thank you for being on, man. I really appreciate it. I can't keep track of all the different.
Oh yes, Stuart is Scott.
All right, so it's Avon Avengers is Stuart Kerrigan then. So let me say something to you, Stuart. The Night of the Chase is one of our we have 4 night classes characters now. I backed it to first edition. Is one of our favorite ones with the flavor it has. So just thank you. All right. We have one PC who's a Knight of the Chase now. He's like 5th level and he's in Norwell. So it's an awesome class. I took it. He can summon his hound and all. It's really cool. So just to let you know. That was Creighton? Oh. My gosh, it was Creighton. I thought, okay. I'm sorry. See, I also got some head issues lately. So, all right. Well, Creighton did a good job with it too. You're all excellent from there. So,
yep.
I did the all right. Because I've never used it. Is it on the east side of the map? I probably never have used them. So if you have a PDF, you want to Discord me or send me a link, I will take a look at it because you never know. We may use it. Oh, see? Yeah. Well, it's on the real man side of the map. That's terrible. All right, I'm looking for something here. So let me go here. What do we know about Thursden, Anna? Not a lot, right? Still.
No, exactly. And I think that's the whole point, which is kind of cool. We know it's a lost, forgotten, imprisoned deity, a kind of an uber deity. Yeah, so it's one of these, just like I should know. I'm watching the Rings of Power, so I should know Mordor, the ruler of Mordor.
What, Sauron?
Yeah, exactly. He's like the Sauron of GREYHAWK, someone that can come back and that will be the end of the world kind of thing. So, but to me, he is one of these tyrants that is better to just tease, but you can't use him. You can just tease him. And this put in point that one of the most important bit from a campaign perspective is not the tyrant himself. You have to invent cool henchmen and underlings and cults and so on and so forth that under him. So the top tyrant himself is not to be used. You don't even need to stat that creature up whatsoever. Just give it a name and an ideology or the lack of an ideology or whatever. But then you need to build what are the henchmen, what are the underlings and the henchmen of the henchmen. And I suggest you should have at least 5 steps between the top one and the bottom one, so to speak.
So just all TV shows, all of them have this. What is the true evil, right? Mm-hmm. There's baddies and there's also, if you watch Supernatural especially, there's all sorts of bad people running around, and you find out that God had a sister who he blocked away billions of years ago, and that's the one true evil. Well, that's what I see Thursden as. Remember, even in Buffy, they had the one true evil that appeared at the end. Mm-hmm. That's what I see Thursden as, well beyond and above, like, all the others. Thursden's like Morgoth. He's not like Sauron. Thursden's more like Morgoth, like the big baddie. But because his following has waned, and that's why I love this adventure, and that's why I ran this adventure at Founders and Legends, because it's so cool. So, yep. That's it though. But he is not. His personage is not material in the Third Age, right? Only in the second for Sauron until he gets killed. So I love this adventure. It was fantastic. It was a fun time at Founders and Legends. But I want to leave. I want to leave Tharizdun there. I don't need to bring up a new cult, Uber cult, or Tharizdun's going to take the world over. Once in a blue moon, maybe a couple adventures, but I don't want to go there with my Greyhawk. I think that's too dark and too possible world ending. So if that makes sense. This is the evil of beginning evil. Yeah. So if you want a tyrant, Hexter. Yeah, exactly. Hexter's a good one too. Hexter's a real good one. There's a lot of good ones you can go in that direction. But Tharizdun is definitely a tyrant. I mean, all evil. You know, everyone. The Eyes is afraid of Tharizdun. They're all afraid of Tharizdun if he were to come back. So Mike is a Tharizdun expert. Unfortunately, with Mike's game being on Wednesdays, we are always a Mike free. So.
Yeah, but we love his purple Thuristan cultists.
Yeah, absolutely.
He set the Thuristan's color is now officially purple, especially since this module is tinted purple, which I think is so cool. I thought that was why Mike made the Thuristan cultist in its cartoon purple. I'm not sure that's the case, but anyway, I think it's an awesome connection because thanks to this module, I think the Tharistan's official color is now purple.
There's a weird quirk about this adventure too. All the old adventures have the monochrome and then they have a reprint. This one doesn't. This is like one of the ones that does not have multiple prints of the cover. You know, so
I'm not sure. Maybe it wasn't that much of a
seller
kind of a public. Exactly, might not be that successful in because it's not the most straightforward adventure to understand. It's not a hack and a slash.
Well, it is at the beginning. It's at the beginning and not the end.
Oh yeah,
it's in reverse.
Yeah. And a lot of people they want their big dragons and their huge dungeon with hundreds of enemies and blah blah and stuff. And this adventure doesn't really. It's not conventional in that sense.
It's not. Even that was why it was a challenge to run
exactly. And for its time, I think it was even more unconventional because there were fewer adventures back then, so there were fewer things to choose from. So
Carlos and I may be the only two that agree on the planet. Carlos Lysing and myself. You run this first, and you run Shokant second.
Yeah,
that's the direction it should be. I think it should be that way instead of this way. That's just my personal. I think that makes Shokant more momentous that way too.
Yeah.
Yep. Plus, it's higher levels, except for 7 to 11 or whatever, and this is 5 to 10, which makes no sense. But okay.
Sounds a little bit desperate to be 5th level and go in after.
I would. Yeah. You're instantly dead if you do that. So I mean, stuff's being thrown all over the place. All right. So that's a good one. All right. Let me do one of mine here. So we got a lot of. I like ones that are not running a country, but have sway over large areas, whether it be through fear.
GREYHAWK has a lot of examples of both. So this is, so we have plenty to choose from, which I think is cool because that means that there is a villain for every campaign.
There is.
Every taste, every flavor of game you want to run, there is at least one tyrant that fits the bill.
Absolutely. And I can't believe it's not in my folder, and that is weird.
And we have to talk about Hexter a little bit later because,
So make sure it comes up.
Gary, that's a good point, and that is something that I think a campaign. What you can do, you can build an historic cult of Thuristan. I have it in my campaign some 3,000 years ago. That's where I have the main. And what we have today is the remnants survive the little remnants of it, so to speak. That was back in the day. Yeah.
One of my favorite baddies to go against in my campaign is the Slavers organization because it is an organization. I mean, they have their own sails on their ships, for God's sake, right? So
and it's interesting because these are more like these aren't the changing the whole world kind of tyrant like Thuristan or
this is for power.
Sauron. Exactly. It's for economic gain and for regional power and we want to. These are the mafia state that wants to run something and rule simply because then we can be the coolest rulers in the neighborhood and we can be the richest and so on and so forth. So
So if you know, recently I ran A2 and I ran it outside of running the A series because now I have the A2 tied into Carlos's Slyketta adventure, which
and we have the A0
yeah.
too that came out later at set in Dark Shelf too came out. So there is like
Thanks, Greg.
There's more adventures now tied into the same story, which is cool.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'm a fan of that. Stuart.
Yeah, then we have Turushmak that came out later, was written in the story as the true tyrant behind it all.
Well, no, he's just a loser. If you look in here, he's just a little. He's a orc-faced little. Here, that's him. that guy right there. That's Turushmak. That dude in this picture.
Yeah, but then you take it later on to the Living GREYHAWK Gazetteer and stuff, and all of a sudden he's the big hula balula running the show.
Here we're really. So they made
Oh yeah, he's the ruler of the Orcish Empire of Pomarsh later on. So yeah.
Okay.
So but then the slavers become part of the history, not the current stuff. So
interesting.
So yeah, so they kind of took it. They took it, which I don't think is bad at all, because it might very well have been that someone in the slavers like Turushmak had bigger ambitions, and he turned out to be a better politician than the other one, meaning GREYHAWK style politician. So he knew how to rule, and he could rally the humanoids of the peninsula in a more effective way, so to speak.
So does this guy not? So everyone agrees that this is bad. What has happened in the slavers here? Because this guy definitely is not the charismatic leader of the entire Pomarsh.
No, and that's the interesting thing is that, but that is something you can explain, and I've heard several theories of this, is that it's not the same person, just someone using the name, or it is the same, and he was just fooling around and learned something. So you can take it one way or the other. What if it's you can hint at it. What if it's the Scarlet Brotherhood who implanted Thurismak?
Well,
we have but we have Gary Gygax himself in Saga of Old City. I think it's from the second book. Not the Artifact of Evil starts in the Pomarsh with Gord and Geller and others storming a castle that is run by Scarlet Brotherhood.
But that doesn't mean the Scarlet Brotherhood is funding.
No, but what I mean is that you can, if you want to make Scarlet Brotherhood, you can have him being a whatever.
So
they might have come up.
I actually had it that the Scarlet Brotherhood, they came across the Scarlet Brotherhood here, and they kind of kicked their butts in my campaign too. But it had nothing to do with, because I like kicking the shit out of them. Because it had nothing to do with
and you haven't used Turushmak exactly. So that's
Turushmak is like the boogeyman, or like the guy behind the scenes. I've never used Turushmak, and I'm never going to use Turushmak. Hey, Curtis, I also like that there is a, I like what they've done here with the slaver organization and the Earth Dragon. I kind of am a fan of it, because organizing all these tribes is a Herculean task as it is, right?
Yeah. I like the melting pot of possibilities that Pomarsh have turned into. Meaning you have the slavers, you have Turushmak, you have the Earth Dragon, you have several others, meaning there's Scarlet Brotherhoods and stuff. This is a melting pot of possibilities. And in your campaign, you can take these as ingredients that you can mix up into whatever suits your game, so to speak. There's a lot of cool possibilities that you can tweak and bend and use in various. You can spice it more with one or two. Meaning you like the slavers as a main antagonist organization, then boost them, keep them in play, and Turushmak is just one of the slavers, and so on. So for you want to invent some other of these humanoid clans tribes that one of them can rule up and rise up and become a strong leader and unite them, and then you can invent your own ruler and stuff. So you can this is an awesome target rich environment for campaign building, Pomarsh, which I think that's why it's really cool.
Gary, yes, it can be a matter of perspective, hence why this discussion is a lot of theory to it and a lot of conjecture. So I'm going to go back to what Stuart said. He made a joke about see the Pomarsh and die.
Yeah.
I know some of you hate it. I love the Crovis story. I love it.
It's one of these cool stories that you can weave into
from Joe Block.
yeah.
I love it so much so that in an adventure I just did I don't know, about a year ago, they found it wasn't his crypt but another one, and they got a weapon that if claimed, and it was claimed by a dual class druid fighter in my game. They are now considered a champion / hero of Crovis. So if Crovis does come back, he has a weapon that's going to dominate him and go. He's going to be going at Crovis's side one day. So we'll see. Long-term campaign plot arc. So, but yeah, I love the Crovis one too. Crovis story. So yeah. So slavers for me are where it's at, because that means they're up here. They're in Greyhawk. They're in Harby. They're in the Bay. They're in the Wild Coast. They're in Highport. They're in the Pomarsh. They're raiding all over the seas. I can put them wherever I need to put them as a tyrannical organization and have it out with them. So, yeah.
And I think the Wild Coast mentions fills another interesting kind of fills. I would say void that, or makes as a function that I think is really important, is that it's one of these, in the real world we will call them buffer states. Almost all evil tyranny, they normally don't line up directly to another major power, because none of them would accept the other one. They usually go to war. So what most major powers do, if they have someone who's oppositely aligned to them, politically, militarily, or whatever, they have a high conflict level. What they tend to do is that they destabilize their other borders, and they invent and create these client states that are gradually aligning themselves one way or the other to get some it's good politically, it's good militarily, and it's a good way of managing the conflict levels, because even the worst of tyrannies don't want to go to war with everybody at once. And you want to have options.
Well, some dumb ones do, right?
Exactly, but they don't live long, so they tend to.
Right.
Tyrants that are too eager and don't know the game, they get out of, and there are needs for those too. But if you have, in this case, I think the Wild Coast is an interesting battleground or like borders area. And the cool thing with them is that they are really ripe for adventures, because there you can find the whole spectrum. It's places where you go to trade with the enemy, you go to spy on them, you go to, that's the way you infiltrate in and out. And it's part of these areas that you use it. And Europe was full of them during the World War II, meaning Sweden was one of them, Switzerland was another one. And the Cold War had plenty of these kind of borderline areas. Some of them are civilized for more like diplomatic talk. Some of them are lawless areas that are just chaos and stuff. So there is room for that, and that makes a lot of other interesting low-level adventures. If you want to run things, just go around stealing things, you want something that is reasonably lawless. You don't want to go to the major enemy right away, and you can do cool stuff with it, so to speak. So the Wild Coast is a really interesting area in that sense, because and Sus Forest is another one for the same reason, so to speak. And I think both Greyhawk, Selene, and Pomarsh kind of like that there is a little bit of buffer between them. They don't want to have to raid each other's territory constantly. It's much better to have a little bit of safe distance between each other.
So let me just do something for a second real quick now that you where is my, now that you mentioned that, and the sus, I'm just gonna bring something up, because I'm gonna flaunt it in front of all you, because it's not out yet. You will see a little bit of this a week from Thursday, kicking off Virtual Greyhawk Con. All right, this is by William Henry Dvorak, The Lost City of the Zool, which, so there you go. I will be running it, and Ed Greenwood is playing in it. Ooh. 3 open signups, 3 of my guys, and Ed Greenwood playing this, and that'll be Thursday night at 7. A week from Thursday, a week from tomorrow. Right. So that'll talking about the Sis Forest. Yep. All right. I've heard that Lord Not Present is looking for that Jewel City. Yeah, I don't know. We haven't seen him on here in months, so I wouldn't know much about Lord Brezen. Lord Brezen hasn't come on in a long time. So, yep. Iranians have no nuance in their tyranny. My gosh, Sam, man, you're out there, man. You're calling elves evil and Heronians tyrannies. Wow. All right. What Okay, and I gave the slavers. I've also given some others. I'm gonna do another. Well, maybe not. We'll see. I got another one. It's on the fringe. But where do you want to go?
And let's see here.
We need to go. We need to go to the right side of the map sooner or later.
Okay, then we go to the right side of the map, and we have one that is very. We don't know much about it, but it's something you can if you want to have your local little tyranny, that you can define the way you want it. There is a perfect little space for that in GREYHAWK.
Where's that?
And I'm talking about the Valley of the Mage.
Oh, okay.
Vale of the Mage. So yeah, because this is something that you have hinted at a wizard that it seems to be almighty there and run the place. And it's something, the module that was made for the area, I think is mainly rubbish. It's not that much fun. It doesn't tie into much of the rest of GREYHAWK, and there's huge potential for something cool. But it's interesting for a number of places. First of all, geographically, it's an area that is defined reasonably, hard to escape out of. There's one way in, and then if you want to, you can invent this kind of high pass that is almost impossible to get in and out of. So you can restrict access, let the players in, do some daring missions, and you can have all sorts of interesting things being there. It's isolated from the rest of the world, and that means that you can have things that are different and difficult, and if there is a place you want to have that is back in time where you can have cool cults and or something that is meaning, what about some old elven culture that has survived there that is not good, or like the more modern ones? What if Vecna still runs the place in secret or something? Meaning it's a possibility. You can do cool stuff with the Veil of the Mage. It's one of these that you can turn into your own little tyranny playground and go whole hog, but it only affects that area. It doesn't need to spill out much, so to speak. So in that sense, you can do your own local world building in that place.
Yeah. So this is a the adventure itself. I mean, the campaign, the setting, location's done well, but the one that's done, the adventure that's done, is not.
And the poor gnomes.
Poor
they're
gnomes.
They're being the aides and henchmen of every tyrant in GREYHAWK published history. The poor gnomes are always hired help for every tyrant for some reason. It's funny because they always portrayed as these do-gooders, except when a tyrant needs some special henchmen, then the gnomes seems to always be there to help out. So maybe there is a gnomish tyrant there somewhere that makes all this happen. So you never know. But yeah, but I think from a geographical standpoint, how isolated it is, but still fairly accessible. You don't need to go to the end of the world. You just need to go through the dim forest and up some roads through a mountain pass, and you're there, so to speak. So a couple of days march. And from civilization, you can have some really cool stuff being out there.
So the gnome thing, I'm going to give you my theory.
Yep.
Gnomes were like, that throw in AD&D back in the day, right? They weren't in the box, they weren't in the basic set, and then gnomes show up. I think no one wants to go with the trope. Oh, there's dark elves everywhere, and they're always the bad servants. I think that one is, no one's going to care if I make the evil gnomes. I think that's what it is. No one cares. Evil dwarves, Delgar Underground, but like making an evil surface dwarf is a stretch. Once in an NPC, but a whole group of them, that's tough. Same thing with elves, that's tough, and halflings especially. So gnomes, why not? So that's just my thought on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And now I think we should talk about probably the biggest tyrant that has ruled in GREYHAWK, at least in more modern times, so to speak, that ties into Hextor, and I'm talking about Ivid.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the Ivid, there are 5 Ivids, I think there were. And in some sense, I think they are the biggest tyrants, at least from a political standpoint, because they ruled over some of the largest areas. The most people were under them, and they were definitely, I think, in every definition of tyrant, I think the Ivid rule was probably filled. It was probably taking every point in the in the tyrant's playbook is probably used by the Ivids. So yeah.
To not have TSR monetize this publication is a crime.
They wanted to, but they didn't have the money.
Yeah,
this was being done when they were facing bankruptcy. They were they owed them so much money, so they couldn't afford printing anything.
Yeah.
So we have to remember that mid-90s, where they were just on the verge of bankruptcy, which there is an interesting podcast series, We Were Wizards, that you can listen to, that Paul Stormberg and a bunch of others have done, that really put together. They interviewed a whole bunch of people. It's really good, where you can find podcast. We Were Wizards. It's a podcast you should listen to. That gives a lot of this back. And this was one of these casualties of the fall of the TSR. When TSR, just before it was bought up by Wizard of the Coast. This one was published, I think, in 85 or something like that. 2 years before, just the year before it was had to fold for bankruptcy and was bought up by Wizard of the Coast. So it was that, and it was supposed to come out. They talked about it for a few years, and then this was released as a Word document on the internet. And we have, meaning there was the young World Wide Web back then. And then people have turned it into a PDF looking really, really good. So yeah. And if I remember correctly, some of these illustrations were also released later that were meant to be the cover art and stuff. It was probably not the final one. It was probably more of a mock-up, and they were supposed to turn it into a but I like the art. It's one of the best publications ever written for GREYHAWK, in my opinion. It's really, really cool.
I think Dale's got one that he really added in a lot of stuff to it too. So
you can definitely tweak a lot of things. And Carl Sargent, he went off the rookers a bit here and there on this, but the way that the type of publication, I love source books like this that goes deep into political intrigue. They play with all sorts of cool stuff. So it's, and if you don't like undead animuses, then this might be a little bit too much for you. But I like it. And this is one of the things that Ivid's the Ivid and his I think there were 5 Ivids over like a few decades. Then they also they used a lot of the interesting fantasy toolbox when it comes to be a tyrant, meaning transform your the ones that don't follow orders into undead by turning them into animuses and stuff. I think that's really, really cool. I think it's plays into a fantasy version of Tyranny really, really well, so to speak. And also how Tyranny quickly have a tendency of decaying, meaning most tyrannies, they don't survive to the next generation, especially not in the real world. But in a fantasy world where you can bridge the gap of death, doesn't need to be the end of a tyrant. That might be the beginning of a true tyrant. So that means that fantasy opens up some new interesting tools for tyrants to use, meaning magic. You can have mind magic, you have undeath, you have various other cool stuff in the arsenal that you can play with for in your campaign that makes Tyranny more viable, give them some more stamina so they can stay around for longer, and they can come back again from the dead, so to speak, and rise again, a bit like political ideologies have a tendency of doing in the real world, meaning an interesting idea that are useful politically can die and then coming back again in later forms, meaning this happens to extremist ideas. They come and go, but they have a tendency of coming back again. That's why you often say that history rhymes. And in a fantasy world, you can be more hands-on than that, so to speak. You can have old villains literally come back as undead, or they can survive as spawn somewhere, or cool things like that. And even the Undying plays with this, I think, in interesting ways.
Yeah. And there's a lot of that, bad
Mm-hmm.
how
Yeah.
bad humans can be, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So even yes, and
And I think that in a fantasy game, I want that in my fantasy games. A lot of things that I'd never want to see in the real world, I want to have that in my games, so we have something interesting to fight against, so to speak. So we can feel like we're doing good and we vanquishing evil, so to speak. So that's and
yeah,
so that is, I think, and even the Undying gets a lot of ammunition. But on the other hand, if you're not that hardcore detailed world builder, even the Undying, don't take every word for it, meaning
yeah,
it's more like a buffet of interesting things you can put in your campaign. You can,
right.
meaning you can take the whole thing in and say, okay, this is what
Hmm.
it is, and then I'm going to play with it. Or you can simply read it for inspiration and say, well, my timeline, my version of GREYHAWK going to be different, but you can definitely take ideas from Eva the Undying. So even if this was written for another campaign world, I'd still think it will be good because there are some cool moves, and you can get good example of Game of Thrones environment where there's a lot of backstabbing. There are various way of espionage and revenge and bad actors and
And
stuff.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of cool. I mean, the idea
Mhm.
of the animus is great. It's just not everyone.
Exactly. It's,
So
but on the other hand, if you have a good idea, I can totally see it that the Ivids simply use it worked, so they keep using the playbook until the bitter end, so to speak. And that's kind of typical with extremists. Once they figured out a good template, they run it until it hits the wall, literally, and falls apart. And the Ivids were desperate. And here we get to the Hextorians again, because this is one of the interesting things with the fall of the Grey Kingdom and Rossi's. You can find multiple villains that you can play with,
right,
and you can use them in different ways, meaning, and this is something that I think was good to Carl Sargent. It doesn't really tell you in detail what happened. It didn't tell you exactly what happened in Rossi's. We don't know if even the fifth is dead or if he's just undead somewhere or something. And we don't know who took over. We It's just this maelstrom of nasty stuff that happens because the empire literally fell apart. And we have interesting actors, meaning we have Duke Grenell up there and Hextorians that are
right.
on they direct commanded by the nine in the hells, so to speak. And then we have Ivid himself that you can play as he was just a pawn between a bunch of other entities, so to speak, meaning you have Asmodeus himself acting through. If you play out that Hextor is the herald of hell, that is one of the that's I kind of love that going. And then you have the Death Knights, the 9 Death Knights that were there, and then you have another dark horse in this is Karulk. That was the last of the archmages. That was
Okay.
the high wizards of Rossi's. He's a 20th level evil wizard, so he can definitely be up there in this stuff. So you have plenty of, and then you have some of the Death Knights. You have, for instance, the one that is hiding out the Adri and waiting with his mock Prince Myrhal is one of them, and he's an undead Death Knight, and he's kind of ready. He has his pseudo court that is ready to come in and take over if the opportunity opens itself. You have Depar up north, and you have, yeah. So there is, like, you have plenty of Death Knights
They're all
that I
megalomaniacs too.
exactly. So meaning, so there are plenty of cool actors, evil ones that could fight each other. They can gang up. They can, yeah. So you have the Game of Thrones of steroids here, so to speak, in that sense.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah,
definitely a place
it's
that
fully laid out for
yeah.
for future campaign work, so to
And if you
speak.
want to
And
do it from a good aspect, Carlos did the 9, which is
mhm,
in the area, so you
yep.
can always run that and do a campaign off of that. So
And
um,
there is plenty of meaning you have you have the ones that we don't know if they are evil, but they not necessarily want to, meaning we have like in Karlstrand, you have Savener. He's a wannabe tyrant, but I would call him more of a populist who is also constrained. So he's not a full tyrant because he has the Darmand Silchers priests and others holding him back and accountable to some degree. He wants to be a tyrant, but he might not be able to. And then we have under him, we have Prince Carvend in Reldeven, a kind of a good guy but he is also constrained in some sense. But they are good and there are neutrality. There are those who can go either way and stuff. So this is an environment that if you want to have a lot of villains, good or good heroes, villains, and the ones we're not sure which way they will go, this is an awesome environment.
And
there's a lot of
the good versus evil battle appears uphill, right? It just does more here in this area.
So you can have, and there's also plenty of good folks that needs to be saved, escorted to good areas. There are items that needs to be saved and rescued or found, located, and stuff like that. So there's plenty of this, and also evil ones that we need to get rid of. So there's plenty of missions that you can go on from low level to high level to the highest level. So in that sense, it's also full of GREYHAWK history, meaning this is the place where a lot of the tapestry of GREYHAWK history has played out over this part of the map, from ancient Elissa and Flan kingdoms to the early beginnings of the Oridian, the Erdi, and so on and so forth. So you can tie back into that too. It can be old relics, and we have Leuku and machines, and there's lots of stuff that is GREYHAWK history that you can play with here.
Fantastic.
Yep. So and Hextor is an interesting play. I have Hextor that he's the Herald of Hell, but he's also an aspect of Tiamat. So it's literally Tiamat and Bahamut playing it out, Hieronymus Hextor. And that's been playing out over the last 200 years.
That sounds very Leonard-like.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. He's one of my inspirations for this. So yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we all agree Sargent did a good job setting this area up after From the Ashes then.
Yeah, he might have overdone it depending on where you, but I think he put in a lot of interesting ingredients where you can make your soup or your stew from, so to speak.
Oh, cool. Geek Dice, I didn't know that. What section?
Awesome. Yep.
Yeah. I don't think he works for him. I just think he maybe is the he's the aspect of them on Earth. I guess I don't know how I look at it.
The cool thing is you can either say that Ivid was the master villain and he was the big evil, so to speak. You can put him up there. He's the incarnate. But you can also say, no, he was the useful fool, the symbol on the throne, and the real power behind it was Hextorians or Karulk or the Death Knights or something, so to speak. So you can play out. Ivid could either be the major villain or just be the decoy, so to speak. You can play it. He can just be the hapless, especially the later ones. They might have just been born with a curse of being born the child of hell or something. So you can have there's many different interesting, because I think the thing was that Ivid sold out, was it 333 generations of his bloodline? He sold them for having the loyalty of the 9 and stuff like that. So there are interesting ways you can play with this. So yeah.
Okay. Nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very good ideas and discussions. So yeah, so back in the day, just to finish up my part, when the Ever Mysterious Tim, and well before From the Ashes was out, we were adventuring. Gazumba himself was adventuring in ID.
Have you been on the right side of the map?
I wasn't DMing. Yeah.
Oh, got you.
Yeah,
playing is okay.
Playing, yes. The Ever Mysterious Tim was
Yep.
DMing, and he had a group, and this is, like I said, pre-Ivid, a lot of stuff. He had a group called the Knights of the Eastern Sun, which was an organization that was working for the Great Kingdom.
Yeah.
We kicked
that was later. ID was then renamed to Neri after later on. So yep.
Yeah, I don't like that. But that's okay. That came out in Living GREYHAWK, so 90% of Living GREYHAWK.
Yeah. And
too much all over the place.
Yeah. And when we mention, if we go back to the real world definition of tyranny, there is only one country that will definitely not be a tyranny in GREYHAWK, that will as close to a democracy as you can come. And we can mention that that's the yeomanry. That seems to have both elections and so on and so forth. So that's definitely not a tyranny, and even in today's standards, so to speak. So strict standards by many. But I just want to mention that is one that seems to be in that sense.
Yeah, when we had the
rest.
Yeomanry guy on for Living GREYHAWK, it seemed like a peaches and cream place compared to every other place we talked about.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, they had that rift. They had that rift thing, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's yeah,
which is kind of neat. Yeah,
and it's also cool because you have the Slerotin's tunnel opening, and you have the Hull marshes next door and stuff. So it's a good safe haven with interesting surroundings. You have the Crystal Mist Mountains and stuff. So in that sense, it's a good base to go adventuring. But when we talk about tyranny, it's probably as far away from a tyranny you can come, at least if you take the official description of the countries. So this one will be as far away from come. And then the other ones will probably Furundi, Veluna, and Ernsts are probably the other ones that will be not, they will be qualify as more solidly good, so to speak, in that sense.
That's good to hear, Brunkel, that Rob helped you with that. So
yeah,
cool. Also, the Mints had people lose their lands if they didn't do.
Yeah, Perilland is another one, and Perilland is interesting because Perilland was once a tyranny under
Igwolf.
Exactly, Igwolf, which is one of these kind of come and go quickly, so to speak.
Yeah,
but most tyrants don't tend to live long in power because they tend to rake up a lot of, they collect enemies like others collect trophies. So they, yeah.
So what is interesting about that is there's a lot of discussion on that in Shokanth, right? I mean, just the whole. So it goes back. It goes way back in time. That with that connection. Then it gets lost because it gets lost in all this WotC, Hasbro. You're making Tasha, Igwolf Tasha, and she seems to be la 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 la, so
she's turned into these. You want these kind of cartoony villains that are cool, like Vecna was turned into too.
Yeah, I understand. I understand.
So and when you sell gaming products, you need these, and you need to make them a bit more cookie cutter because you don't want them to have a lot of too bloody history and stuff. So you need to sanitize them for publications in modern game system if you reach a million audience, so to speak. And both Vecna and Igwolf have suffered from this. But on the other hand, they got a lot of attention, so we can dust off. And that's the beauty we have in GREYHAWK. We have all that old history of these figures that we can fall back on and build
coming when the Dungeon Master's Guide comes out. By the way, supposedly this last last Player's Handbook has outsold the 2014 one by 5 times.
Yeah,
that's what I heard. So we may have an influx of GREYHAWK people reaching out.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know anything about what Igwolf took over here or any of it. I know none of the story.
Well, I kind of made my own version of that. Let me go in here and see. We have NPCs named Igwolf.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the background on it. I just know that she was messing around with demons, summoning Grassets, and then regretted it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I took Conquest of Perilland was back in 460, according to my timeline. I think that's pretty much
the whole of Perilland.
Yep.
With what with what forces? That's the details I don't. Which I don't need.
Right. When Ayus adopted, so it was after she'd been to, hang on a second here, after she'd been to GREYHAWK and stuff, she became Grassets was the one that provided the forces, so to speak. She became the mistress of Grassets, and he provided the forces. And it was basically a way of building on Ayu's domain up in the north to expand out and to make sure that the Grey Kingdom was kicked out and firmly firmly establish a bigger hold up there. So that's how I have one of the main reasons. And it was also a way for Igeville to start getting back to her original, closer to her original home, so to speak, as a springboard to where she originally came from.
Yeah, but when was she imprisoned then by Grazids?
That was later on. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Or rather, the other way around. Grasset used her, and she used him. So they had that kind of use each other, and they used each other, and they got Ayus, and they put Ayus on his small rulings up there so he could grow strong and start doing his thing. And then as soon as he became strong enough to start ruling, he went off the rookers and and abandoned his original duties and became his own man, so to speak, his own little tyrant. So he ignored his makers and his parents and what he was supposed to do. And grew. He was so thoroughly evil, he didn't care. He just wanted power for himself. And that changed the stuff. So but that's my version of it. So and there is, I think, if you go back to my website or my Patreon, you can find, let's see if I can find a link to this here. It should be.
All right, got it. All right, that's good, Gary. Yep. Well, I just wanted to, hey, so I guess you approved it, then you wrote it. Just because I know this is a lot I do not know about. What I know about that story is mostly from Shokanth, right? So, yeah, which I love. But that's cool. Maybe we need to do Gary need to do an in-depth detail on some history lesson adventure sessions. That'd be a good one. That'd be a good one to do. So, very, very cool. Alrighty.
Here I have the let's see here.
Okay.
Let's see if I can find the proper link to it. Yeah, I think
it was 11 years. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Sam, thanks.
I just need to double check that I have the link to it here. Yep. Here is the link to my.
So, Lomas, we're going to do as soon. Well, remember, I may be out of commission for 2 Wednesdays in November, right? So, but we're going to do intro to GREYHAWK discussions coming up when that book hits.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're going to go back to the basics a little bit.
Yep. Yeah. That's why we can do deep dives like this.
Yeah, that's why we're doing some deep dives now.
Might be a good thing not to start with Tyranny and GREYHAWk for
for
beginners.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
just but so that's my story of my write-up of Igeville. There's some heraldry and stuff on that article. That was my write-up.
Cool. All right.
Yep.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
It was my way of tweaking, as an example of how you can take published history, tweak a few things, and use the published sources as raw material, tweak a few things, and then write your own version of it, so to speak, based on what's published. Because to 80-90%, it's true to most of the sources. Some of the sources are speculation in themselves and contradictory. I made my version of it, so to speak, using the published version. So, yep. Mm-hmm.
Let's take care of Ayus while we have time.
Oh yes, yeah, he's the main villain. Yep, which ties into Igeville.
It does, absolutely.
He's the daughter of Igeville and Grasset, or sorry, the son of Igeville and Grasset. Yep.
Yep. So things go pretty awry during the From the Ashes GREYHAWK Wars. We know that, and it's.
I'm laughing to Tyranny for beginners. Yep.
It will. Yeah, it'll be a lot of stuff. We're going to really, and if it's very basic for a lot of you, we want to help along those that are coming in. And my guess is we're going to have a lot when that book comes out.
Yep. A force me to 11 sis. Yep.
Yeah. If you notice, what do I have on my bar at the bottom? The big words GREYHAWK in caps every episode, every show I do now. I can put it down there just because we want people to. That's the catch they're looking for.
Yeah.
So the Lands of Ayus are, it went during from the ashes. Did it go too far? Who knows? Maybe, but it's been pushed back a little bit in future ones. And yeah, just I would not want to be living under an IU's occupation. Let me just put it to you that way, because there is no
Yeah.
law. It's all whim. So
Yeah.
by that or the little, the those beneath him. Priests of IUs are the most chaotic out of all of them. That you don't have any idea what they're going to do. So
there's a link to my Patreon post, the Flanese scene from the old side with big O, and that's my take on the history of IUs. I've refined and detailed it more, so there will be an updated version of this coming out once I've done with the next chapter of my Shieldlands campaign. So there will be an update to more stuff. But that's my takes. Just like I did with Igwil, I wrote up my own story of used published sources and then tweaked what was actually true behind it. So yeah.
Cool. So what are your thoughts on? And I know you pulled back a little bit, but you moved his whole base, but operation.
Well, he's expanded. Yeah, he's expanded because he wants to hold on to the empire. So he needed a new capital that is more centrally located, and then he can use Doraka as a fallback safe house up there, so to speak. So what he did was that he's turning Hellorn into a new capital, so to speak. He's building a new center of operations, like a forward, and that's north of up there. It's a little bit east, north of White Plume Mountain, just west end. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Now for me, I think that's giving him too much credit.
No, but the interesting thing is, but it's interesting. He's building that not because he's strong. He's building it because he's getting weakened. He needs to put firmer roots in there, trying to hold on to what he has, because it's crumbling in the edges, so to speak. And I have it as one of the reasons that a lot of tyrants in the real world having problems. It's easy when you're on the rising edge. When you're gaining power, it's easy. Once you're out there plundering and stuff, it's easy, because then what IUs did was that he got a lot of his humanoids and other whatever he can find living on his lands and neighboring lands. He riled them up, got them set up to war and go plunder. And in the beginning, that was easy because then they all got rich. And IU's got his more than his fair share, so to speak. He took the lion's part of all the things but all of his humanoid troops were happy. They got the backing, they got demon and other assistants that helped them, and they could terrorize all the neighbors and loot and pillage and steal. But the problem was that after about a decade, the neighbors have now learned how to deal with them, and they ganged up and they organized. So now it's more even, and even then some, meaning Furiundi, they took back their country. Shieldlands is starting to take back a little bit. And that means that now all of a sudden IUs is cash strapped, because now all of his troops say, oh, if we're going to fight for you, you need to pay us. Otherwise, we're not fighting for you. And IUs, he's a selfish bastard. His idea of underlings is that they are supposed to pay him for the privilege of fighting and serving him. And that all of a sudden, in order to keep his empire, he needs to start opening his coffers. And he can do that by taxing his underlings and his subjects. But the problem is that they are mostly poor and they've already been taxed to death. So he's now cash strapped, and that means that all of a sudden he's now demanding that his underlings, the hierarchs and the bonehearts and the rulers under him, they need to find ways of getting money and resources to him, or he will go after them. So his tyranny is no longer a sure thing and is no longer growing. Now it's much more of a cat and mouse game and infighting and all sorts of stuff. They don't trust each other, etc., etc. So IUs needs to be closer to the troops and the fronts because he doesn't trust them anymore. They don't do his bidding unless he's so close that he can punish them physically if need be. And that's so the reason that he moves closer is not because he's strong, it's the opposite. It's because he's weak, or weaker at least.
So I love a phrase in real life.
Yeah.
And it goes to socialist dictatorships like Venezuela. Eventually you run out of other people's money.
Oh yeah.
Which is what I think has happened, which I think what has happened, and like I said, I think you give him more credit than he should have. I think the whole thing's about to collapse. That's just my opinion.
But that's the thing. Meaning,
yeah.
and in that sense, if you look at it historically, the fascist or more, they tend to crumble even faster. Because the lefties are better at sucking the last drop of money out of their own population, so to speak, and because they're really good at living on their own, out of their own money, so to speak. A lot of the other types of empires, like the fascists and stuff, they were much better at grabbing other people's money and live off them. A lot of the socialists, they live off their own money, their own population, and suck them dry, so to speak. So and that tends to so but that's something you can debate in verbatim, because there are so few examples that we don't, and a lot of them you don't even know should you place them on the right or the left, because it's more like a circle in that sense. Once you become tyrant enough, your tools are about the same, whether you're left or right, whether you organize. And when it happened with the left and right, I mean how you organize the means of production, because that's when I talk about left and right. Do you collectively own and control the means of production? Meaning that's the I would say the true definition of socialism. Or do you organize them in a not a collective way, so to speak? And Venezuela is a good example of, and Cuba, of collective tyrannies and so on, and others are not. So, and China is an interesting hybrid in that sense. And in a fantasy world, you can say that Scarlet Brotherhood is one of these more collective ones, and IU's is one of these individualistic in that sense, meaning it's one individual and he organizes it however he sees fits for the day. And IU's, I think his strength was that he was very good at plundering other people's money, bringing it in. The problem is that is more like a pyramid scheme. As soon as there is no new money coming in, the whole thing is, like you said, Jay, the whole thing falters very quickly.
Yeah.
And in my campaign, we are there in that initial phase of falling down quickly, so to speak. But that doesn't mean that the whole thing will fall down, because there might be a core, meaning IU's is a demigod, and he's personally very powerful, which is one of the differences in a real world compared to a fantasy world. Because in the real world, a ruling individual, whether they are Ceausescu or Mao or anyone from history, meaning, okay, Alexander the Great or Genghis Khan might have been impressive personalities, but they're still only human in that sense. So they don't have, but in a fantasy world, even one creature can be enormously powerful compared to the real world, which opens up for interesting possibilities. So you might see that even if the empire of IU's falls apart, he might personally still be around in one capacity or the other and cause mischief centuries from now, so to speak, like Vecna or Tharistun or something. So you might turn them into an ex-tyrant in that sense, that still runs secret cults or whatever. Or you might kill him outright and say he's gone, he's no longer in your campaign.
Right. I understand. Just my point is that when you have any society based on even Rome expansion and taking from others, it's going to eventually collapse.
Yeah. When you extract rather than produce, then you quickly go downhill. And I agree that most tyrants, they might have a good phase at the beginning, but they usually succeed on stealing money from someone somewhere, and then as soon as there is nothing to be stolen, then you go up in smoke fairly
and just
quickly.
Like anything else, you can overexpand, which was Rome's issue. So
and there you have Rome, and everybody who studies history and seen GREYHAWK can see the Great Kingdom, I think, is modeled very much on Rome, who had a glory phase, an imperial phase, and then a decay and decline, and then eventually was kind of disappeared and was then turned into daughter states and so on and descendants, which is kind of cool because that gives you a rich tapestry of history and stuff to deal. But in that sense, you can compare the tyranny of the Horn Society to the tyranny of IUs. Horn Society was interesting because we don't have a sure leader. The true leaders are anonymous. It was more like they was tyrant under a group or an idea or an old ideology, so to speak. And IUs is a personal cult of him, worshiping him as a deity, so to speak. And so that is also means that they can survive in different ways, meaning you can see Horn Society, the way I have it is more like an old flan fable and faith and stuff. So they could be seen more as an ideology, a culture, and an idea, and so on, that can live on as long as people believe in it, that might be the horned ones, and so on. They can, just like the Scarlet Brotherhood is old Sewell ideas and stuff that was manifested in. So even if the Scarlet Brotherhood falls, I'm sure there are Sewell adherents that will still dream and remember when Sewell was great, so to speak, and might reinvigorate it in some form down the line again. And the Horn Society that way too. But IUs is a different beast. It's about him and his personal power. And then you can play with it, even if IUs has very few underlings, he can still be very, very dangerous. The Horn Society, on the other hand, they might not be that powerful individuals. They might be like the slavers or something. That it's what they do and their power as an organization that is dangerous, not so much their individual powers. And that's another thing. Some tyrants might be very individually strong personally, and others not. They're just strong because they inspire others to do evil deeds and stuff.
Right. So, what's going to happen with IUs? Well, first off, it depends on the time frame of your game too. A lot of this discussion depends on the time frame of your game. I think I want to say this. I think a lot of people, and I have a feeling we saw in the map from Schley that it's reset to 576. And a lot of people don't want to have to deal with IUs having this whole land area, and that's why they start their game in 576.
Yeah.
And they say whatever happens in my campaign happens, which I understand completely. What's up there, John? Phoenix?
Oh, yeah. Meaning if you start 576, you can then turn IUs, either keep him as a local villain up there or make him the major villain taking over half the world. Meaning you can, he's interesting and useful either way.
Yep.
Or you can have him either as a full-blown tyrant who politically and in every shape and form takes over a large part of the world, or you can have him as a new god that comes in and do evil deeds, trying to squeeze out the other evil deities or cooperating with them or something. And speaking of it, there are others that are underutilized that I think are really cool. And I'm thinking Keraptis, but we also have the worm. We have the Caius is one that I think is has a lot more potential that could be really cool. The wormy one, so to speak.
Which one?
The Caius.
Oh, I thought you said Careptus.
Yeah, Careptus too, and Caius or Caius is one that I think could be used.
If you do Age of Worms,
yeah. But even then, otherwise, it's a perfect cultist, so to speak. You can have him and Nerul is another one, but Caius was originally, I think, a Nerul priest.
So, Gary, I am closer to 576.
Yep.
Unless I can't do math. 623 is 47 that one direction and 53 the other. So it's close, but it's right down the middle.
Yep.
It's all good. But remember, it's been 40 years of gaming.
Yep.
Avon, Stuart, I can't say anything right now. It's being worked on. Mm-hmm. It's going to happen.
But now we talked about a lot of these have been either like demigods or demons and devils and stuff. But we also have a lot of more like you run of the mill little tyrant around the bend, so to speak. And one of them that is not mentioned often but has a lot of potential campaign wise, and that's Boss Delby in Stoic. He's one of these that you can use in that sense. He can be if you need like a mafia leader, he is the local. Think about it like a mob boss or someone like that, Capone style, or someone that goes around, throw parties and crush skulls of people he doesn't like and so on. He could be very. He's like a local, more down to earth version of what Savener is, the high end of that, and Boss Delby is more like the mid level of it. And then you can have the guy that runs the Thief Beggars Union in GREYHAWK. He's the tyrant of the lowest level, so to speak. And Boss Delby is somewhere in the middle, and then Savener is the high level version of the same type of person, so to speak, or personality.
So that's a good one. I will throw out one that is a long-term campaign plot arc in my campaign. Do you know, how many of you know what happens at the end of Return to White Plume Mountain?
I should remember what was the official adventure at the end, but all
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sam. Charybdis gets reborn as a child.
Yep.
An infant.
Well, I wasn't sure if that was the end of the adventure, but maybe it is. So it's the cliffhanger.
Well, that happened in my campaign in 18, 19 years ago. He's been raised right here at the Golden Tower in Selene.
Ooh.
Okay. I actually did an adventure where he went from Altamira back here, and some agents now know that he is, it's getting out through the secret, societies, the baddie groups, that he is alive. So we'll see what happens there. So that's one of my long-term campaign plot arcs. I always talk about these ones that go 20, 30 years. So, I'm excited about that one day, but not right now. It's not. It's for probably in my 60s. So in a couple years. I think when I'm fully retired from work, I think we'll work on that one. Yeah, see, Scala, I mean, it happens. Yeah, a lot of people who ran that adventure, that's what they did. So you got some opportunity with that. That's why I never ran against the Giants one. I know it had a lot more detail on it because I already did the original. But I ran Return to Keep on Borderlands and the Return to White Plume Mountain. I thought they were both very good. So yeah, so that's an opportunity. No, that's only in his mind that he's a tyrant, Gary. He's in his mind that Lord Brezen's a tyrant. He's a tyrant of himself. He keeps himself in his own self-inflicted prison.
He keep, I would say, proud soul traditions in that sense.
Sure, and I'm okay with that. We all need, he doesn't realize it, but he has a jester hat on to everyone else.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, all need those kind of adventurers in our existence. Which is fine. Let me see if I have anything else in my book sections here that we missed. I think
I've covered most of the ones that I thought about taking. Yeah.
Yeah, Scala, you got a lot of opportunities, and I just a lay Winchester, the dual class paladin magic user.
We have one other that should, or another type of tyrant that we should mention that we haven't, and that is the up in the northern parts of there's two areas in GREYHAWK that has these, and those are the humanoid tyrants. That Turushmak is one, but he's kind of contested in a lot of sense. But you have up in the Howling Hills and stuff, you have the Ursuns and stuff like that. Bone March, you have various. There you can have various humanoid.
I like the Bone March one. Yeah, I like this. Yeah, I like that. I mean, we're hearing a lot from Les, the Spine Castle Bone March.
Yeah.
Ones.
So there you have another type of tyrant that you should not forget, so to speak, because they can be kind of classical enemies, no questions asked, meaning they can be the most vicious type. So if you want a clear-cut enemy that is not undead or demon or whatever, the humanoid orcish and other humanoid leaders tyrants might be, they fit the bill perfectly for a lot of sense.
Stuart, that's not coming up since this content's no longer available. So, oh, Zeef. Yeah, is Rary a tyrant?
Another one.
I don't think Rary's a tyrant. I think Rary's a megalomaniac, crazed.
Well, he wants to be.
Yeah,
at least.
yeah.
But he might not be. He might be a tyrant, but not of that many, because he doesn't have that much population to be that many subjects in that sense.
He reminds me of every guy in all the old Twilight Zones. Like the one where the guy is basically
a less successful tyrant.
Yeah, they're all on Mars and they're leaving, and he stays by himself, and now he's ruling over himself only. The guy from Shawshank Redemption, the old guy, that was the guy in that Twilight Zone episode. That's the guy. That's what Rary kind of reminds me of. And then a bad tyrant. And then when we had on, oh my God, my brain shut off. Who wrote Rary the Traitor? We just had him on a couple months ago. Sorry, everyone. He kind of was like, yeah, you know, I had Anthony Pryor. Yeah, that's it. He was like a dude, right? He's like, yeah, you know, he did this and I had this done, but now he's out there. You know, I was like, cool. So, yeah, it says to be more. Well, there kind of was. I think Stewart and Paul and Creighton all did stuff on the Bright Desert, didn't you guys in Living Greyhawk era?
You
guys did some, some more stuff on it.
There were some cool stuff done in that area. There was some things published there that was really good. Yeah.
So you know, and then you got your undead ones, but some in the past and all. I mean, is the Serac still one out here? That's up to you.
Yeah.
You know, that's up. I don't know about that. And that's,
well, his tomb might have been raided so many times and killed so many, so it's just now deserted and there's nothing there, or it's still waiting to be raided, and he's still lurking there to kill off hapless adventurers. It depends on where you set it. It might have never been discovered until now, so it might be the first time, or it's something that was ancient history and now is just forgotten and that's it. So yeah.
Don't ever talk about Rob Kuntz about Rary in the Bright Desert. He'll go.
No, please don't. No.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
No, you know, he'll say that never happened. So, but you know, as Gary said earlier, it's subjective. You know, who's a tyrant, who's not. Surely some of the Keel, as we saw in the Keelan discussion with Gary and Sam, a lot of the Keelan kings in the early era were tyrants, right? And you know, The City of GREYHAWK is a tyranny of thieves. I think it's more of a secret organization of thieves that because they're smart and they leave most of the populace alone, right?
Oh yeah, they're the ones that are rent seekers, is what you will call them in political science. They are the ones that extract some. They are parasites in that sense. They extract some money from or resources from ill-gotten gains, so to speak. And they're doing it more or less legal, so to speak, and half of it is probably legal because they go around having racketeering, meaning if pay us money or we will steal or someone will come and steal from you, and
Gary, I think
the other half is stealing.
Yeah, absolutely, Gary. I think a lot of the population just doesn't care, right? And they're just like, oh well, it's a necessary. So yeah.
And it might be good protection, meaning it might be the best protection around. Instead of paying taxes, you pay them, and that makes sure that no one steals from you. So it might work. Yeah.
So, Stuart, do you have Rob's new book, latest one on the goings of Rob Allard? It's pretty good. Yeah. So he actually on stream told us of a story where he got like kidnapped or whatever intentionally by Zugdemoy, and he had a weekend of debauchery with her. Yeah. You gotta get it.
We heard the juicy bits there.
Yeah, we heard the juicy bits on stream.
Juiciest stories we've ever had.
They were great.
Yeah,
they were awesome.
Yeah.
It's one I would recommend getting.
It explains a lot about Rary's
and Rob too. Yeah. So that was
but if you take that in and then what Rary does in published history, it kind of makes sense. So it's actually not that bad. It kind of explains things. So yeah.
I will defer to Rob on his Rubbler stuff because it's his character, and
Oh
one of the
yes,
worst
yeah.
things I hate is you get a character and you love your character, and then because someone owns the right to it, they do crazy stuff with the character. I mean, but it's
Yeah.
part of business, so yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Greyhawk is New York to dive. No, 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 no. Divers is not Boston. That's too much for Divers. No, Divers is Detroit. Okay, on a good day. Divers is, like I said, Divers is the shithole of Greyhawk, in my opinion. Yeah, Divers is Detroit. Worst. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What made it so bad?
Um, it's just where we put all the incorrigibles that come out, the Assassin's Guild there and the Merchant Guilds, everything we put, like my
Okay.
campaign,
Yeah.
we put in Divers.
Uh-huh.
It's been
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, because it was the second capital of the Great Kingdom in the good years when
Oh,
Great
there you
Kingdom
go.
was
That alone,
the glory
yeah.
years of
Yeah.
so on. So it's definitely
Dundalk,
fallen
that's
from his
funny.
graces.
North Forth. Oh my
Yeah.
God, that's funny. Outside
Yeah.
Baltimore. Robert the Trader versus Robert the Fungal Infection, ladies. Man.
Ah,
Look,
yeah.
you got to get the book. Give him a
Yeah.
fair shake
Mhm.
on it, and just see what he has to say in it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a good point, Gary. They need to keep up with the Lastra. Yeah.
Divers is not a runner-up in the Free City competition. Okay, all right. I'll give Greyhawk 1. Okay, you ready for this? You're not going to like this. Greyhawk is 1. I like Harby still. I don't care if you say, oh, it's tribute to Greyhawk. Harby is 3. Harby's 3. Whoops. There's number 2 right there, so suck it. Altimere's 2. Left side of the map, baby. Left side! There you go. I'll get some left side of the map love in. Put Divers around 4 to 10 in that. So people Greyhawk eat with their hands and don't use napkins. Well, that's probably true too. So, yeah. And we're getting a little. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I understand that, but Stuart, if you don't have my, do you have my preview? Here, I'll link it. Download it. Take a look. It's got some fun stuff in it. Hold on 1 second. Let me go to Cannibal Publishing modules. It's here with a couple of their freebies. Feel free to download it. Take a look. This the sneak peek. It's free for everyone. There you go. Divers is stuffy, but they're more proper. Greyhawk is like Vegas. I like it. I like Greyhawk being Vegas.
I agree that, Gary. Yep.
I like Greyhawk being Vegas. I agree. So.
Yep.
It does. It does. Check out the Robbler. Check out my publication for. It's a sneak peek.
Awesome.
It doesn't. There's a lot missing out of that, but yeah. So.
This was intended to be a lot of inspirational kind of thought,
theoretical
food for thought.
That's it. That's what we wanted tonight. We just wanted to go around, and we are holding off on a lot of major stuff and until we actually can get when the new book comes out, it's going to make it a lot of sense. You may see some basic discussions, but we want you all here to participate in those discussions. And you'll be like, well, this is mundane.
There might be a lot of a new generation of Greyhawkers that want to come in and game in the setting and get to know it. So, yep.
Oh, to create a convincing tyrant, I would say that tyrant, the road to hell is put on a path of the best of intentions. That's the direction I would go.
There's at least two obvious ways you can become a tyrant. One is that you are a greedy bastard who just wants more of everything and you want to outcompete everybody else. That's one sure way of stereotype for being a tyrant. And then you have the other stereotypical tyrant. That's the one that say, like the Scholar Brother, we have this glorious past that need to be preserved to all costs and stuff. And you appeal to, we need to make safeguard our legacy and blah, 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 and so on and so forth. Defend our faith or our people or our soil or whatever it is, our cult, whatever, so to speak. So you can have, those are two stereotypical ways of getting into tyranny. One, personal greed and gain. The other one, defend some higher cause that a lot of people around can rally to, so to speak. Those are stereotypical, easy ways of creating a tyrant. And then there are ones in between that are very kind of, you can have the manipulative psychopath that runs an evil cult that is so damn successful that he managed to scare, in a fantasy version, he managed to go around getting rid of his enemies in so gruesome ways that everybody thought he'd be scared of him. Then you can run it's simply so effective at running a cult that the cult grows and becomes. That's another stereotype. So there you have 3 ways you can create a villain, so to speak. That stereotypical ways that all can function, so to speak.
I like creating a tyrant who thinks he knows what's good for everyone.
Exactly. There you have the type. I'm the one defender. I'm the defender of whatever, and so on and so forth. Exactly. Yep. That's one typical stereotypical way of creating a tyrant. And the other one is the greedy bastard who just wants more and more and more and willing to go over X amount of dead bodies to get there, so to speak. That's another stereotypical.
Josh, are you smoking something? Less than a month. It's a week. It's 10 days. That's it.
No, but hang on a second. Josh means not the virtual. He means GameHole Con game.
Oh,
my GameHole Con game. Yes, yeah.
Just because skip right over Virtual GreyHawk Con, Josh. Yeah,
so he is not in my Virtual GreyHawk Con game. Okay. He's in my GameHole Con game. So yep.
Yeah. Josh missed that topic discussion on Sunday night. I said, everyone just stopped. Yeah. Well, I'm waiting for the Tower GreyHawk stuff. Tower Gygax stuff.
Tower Gygax. Yeah, we should have a Tower of GreyHawk that we can run GreyHawk games the entire.
No.
An entire convention.
I got enough going on as it is. I got enough things to worry about. So. All right. Why don't we talk about what's going on for the rest of the week?
Exactly. Yep.
All right, Anna. What do you got going on?
First, I just sent out a message to my players for Virtual GreyHawk Con, and since I will have one of my players will go and join the joust halfway through the session, so I realized what the heck, there were 2 spare seats, so I invited them into the game as well. Nice. So there will be like 7.5 gamers. So what the heck, we do it. So I sent out, there will be with the rules sample that my play testers have got. We have gotten a couple of play tests through that have been, I would say, reasonably successful to very successful for being the first real battle tests of Hawktail's rules. So it will be a lot of fun. So I will look forward to. So we will have on the Saturday, we will have a get together with the people players. We have a session 0 that we might even do some pre-gaming so we can set the situation up for the actual session, and that coming. So, and these sample rules will be available to everybody. I will post it up like tomorrow or tonight or something. Tomorrow, I think, will be. I will post that up, and I also have some for my top patrons. I have some other. I'm doing the final tests and stuff to see, so I can actually show off on my seminar what I'm up to when it comes to the new generation of GreyHawk maps.
All right. Well,
so those are the obvious, and then will be a mapping stream on Friday.
Are you going to have anyone on with you this time?
Hopefully Linda on Friday as well. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Yep. And a new play test on Sunday again. I think I have signups, but if you're on my Discord server, we can probably squeeze in a session or so, and squeeze in some extra people to run it. So yeah.
Josh, will you tell everyone on Category Gaming to get back on, because I'm going to raid into him tonight. All right. I see you in the chat there.
Cool. Yeah.
All right, I hate raiding into someone that is not live. So, right, all right, that's where we want to go. So let me go back here. And...
thank you, everyone gamers. That's awesome. Yeah.
What games are missing players most? I went over it, but let me do it again real quick. So
yes, please do.
Some of them are. Thanks, Cyber. Thank you so very much. And by the way, this month has been crazy. We're at all-time high for subs. Thank you. It's just been a great month, but we're finishing up strong. Okay. So let me go here and let me go to tabletop events. I did send out a post over the weekend. to trying to get all these games filled. There's not that many seats that need to be filled, roughly a dozen. But the problem is they're mostly all on Saturday nights, and that's the issue. So, yes, my Tyranny, go home, go big or go broke, right? So if we come to event schedule, and we're going to go to the key ones that need to be filled, and quickly here. Look, there is. Don't count the seminars like the Mike Disney one because that's live. There's 3 Deep Dwarven Delves. Okay, and it's a 3-parter. They're not. You don't have to play all of them, but 2 of them are half filled. One more sign up will get them going with 4. So, and this one's Friday night at 6. So that's a good one. All right, now Anna's 7 hours at the same time, but that's okay. You can put it on lurk, right? Get in that game for Friday night. Now here's the problem: all the rest except for one are Saturday. This is Lee's game. There's 4 open spots. This is Josh's game, Ravages the Mind. There's 4 out of 8 open spots. He could still play with 4, I think. Right, Josh? Deep Dwarven Delve, Part 2, half filled. All right, we need, so, all right, right now that's 10, right? This one needs 5. I don't know if this is going to happen. The third part of the Deep Dwarven Delve needs 5. This is William Henry Dvorak's game in part of Lost City of the Soul. The publication he gave me. I don't know how he's got 1 sign up. My theory is the name is a little weird, right, Anna? You think it's a little off, so people don't know what it is. So that one is my Lost City of the Soul got filled in like 2 minutes, so I may have him change the name. I'll talk to him. All right, changing the name on that. This Zavad here, this one. And this one is by Boggart. He's only got 2 signups for it right now. He's got Bob Gnarly and Gabriel UI in that one. So that one also, and that one is Saturday night as well. They're all Saturday night. That's the problem for the most part. And then that's a GREYHAWK Reborn. We don't need to worry about. And Dicker's Zeef game has 2 openings still. All right. And that's a Sunday at 9 a.m. So that's a good spot. This is Catacomb Gaming's game that's live streamed. There's 1 open seat for that still. So there you go. It's not a lot, but like those that sign up, that give their time to DM, I'm trying to get all of them filled. It's just they spend their time. The last thing we want is to have them not be able to run the game. So. All right. It's 3 parts. Yeah, you probably can, Gary. You probably can. Yeah, thanks, John. Thanks, John. So I do have an opening now Sunday morning for a streamer. We're going to go over this all here, and I'll pop that up shortly. All right, so let's go at the rest. We'll talk about this in a second. All right, tomorrow night. A big fight here outside of a recently recovered Cairn as a Rennie gave the group from Vengeful Justice a map. It just so happens that there was a Priestess of Ayus there with her Minotaur and Orog servants, which they slaughtered and wiped out. Here's some of the combat scenes going on last Thursday. She got away, but no one else did. There's her right there with the skull in her hand. Yep. So, and this is the part still to come on this side of the map. So, right, and that is tomorrow night. Right, is that date right? The date's off. It's a week later. Vengeful Justice in the Cairn Discovery. That's tomorrow night. We finish it. You have some deja vu if you know some original 2nd edition modules with this one. Okay. Yes, could be. All right, so that's tomorrow night. Adventure number 1067. We finish Saturday morning. This is it's Nuclear Meat, worst named group by vote from all of you. It's got Coco and Korg Originals. Phantom NJ is playing, and Sir Timothy is playing his paladin from the new group, the Bone Baddies, because he's getting a little behind in experience. You know how long it takes paladins to go up. So I'm like, I have a spot open, Tim, you want to play in this? And he's like, yeah. So penalty of death. A Selenian elf has killed a bunch of fellow elves at Southern Tree Guard in the south of Selene and is fleeing into the Lort Mills. And this group needs to track her down. Oh, I gave it away. It says she. Of course it is. Track her down and take her out. There you go. Yes. And that is going to be a fun group. It's Saturday from 10 to 2. Sunday, Virtual GreyHawk Prelude Show. If you have a stream, if you are in the joust, or if you are a special guest, you are welcome to hop in. I started reaching out to people today. So Josh, you are, don't forget, you're welcome to. But you're welcome in here. You just got to tell me hour 1 or hour 2. All right. So that we have enough going in, talking about your game, your event, what you're doing. So that is the Prelude Show Sunday night in cabin number, 318. I'm losing track of how many cabins it is, Anna. It's just
you need to keep track so we know that when we get to the 400 Jubilee. Yep.
So that'll be fun, and that's ends the week. So 4 streams this week, and then we'll have a bunch next week when the con goes off. Remember, the con starts on Thursday night with the Lost City of the Soul, which is this and I'll show it because a lot of you were not on. I have an early copy. You cannot get this yet, but it's coming out, and this is William Henry Dvorak's publication. A lot of good. This will be a part of it.
9 to 14. That's cool.
Yeah, 9 to 14, and look, it's 200 pages of goodness in here.
Oh,
I'll be running a part of it with myself. Three of my regulars, each playing 1 character. 3 open signups. Okay, and Ed Greenwood on that Thursday night playing in this. He'll be playing Ravalantar. It'll be fun. All right, let's do the giveaway. See who wins. Any questions? Thank you all for staying on. And by the way, it was officially we were on the Twitch front page on Sunday night, and that's why we had peaked at 750 viewers. So thank you, Twitch. So that was cool. Always cool when Twitch steps up for us, and it was unscheduled. So it was very nice of them to do that. I didn't even decide who I was going to raid into. Bones is playing Call of Duty. I raided into Folk and Myth last week. I may raid into Sensei Suplex. I haven't raided into him in a long time. Oh, no, I said Catacgood Gaming, didn't I? I said Catacgood. Is he back? Man, I'm losing my mind. Yeah, they're back. Okay. All right, good. All right. My brain's off. All right, here we go. Let's see who wins this. Classic D&D reprint. Closing it out. And the winner is Brungale. Grats. Get with me, and we'll get you a Classic D&D reprint that you do not have. And thank you all. Anna, thank you. So
thank you, and thank you everybody in chat. I saw so many awesome comments and stuff. So
yeah, it was a great discussion. We really appreciated it. Stuart,
yeah.
Thank you so very much. I'll try and remember your Avon this next time. Thursday night, Anna's on Friday night. I'm on Saturday morning, and I'm on Sunday night for the Prelude Virtual GreyHawk show. All right, we'll see you all. Everyone enjoy the rest of their week.
Bye, everyone.
Right button this time. Yeah, John, it's good to see you.
Yep.
Hope you're doing well, man. Let's raid in. Get a nice healthy number. Awesome.
Yes.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See you tomorrow night, 7:30.
Yeah, popped over 78. That's good.
Beautiful. That was good.
Yeah, I think it